Good one.
This time I'm serious, this time. This time I'm serious. This time it's serious. It's as bad as it looks. This hurts just like it should. The perfect place at the perfect time. Where I was yours and baby you were mine. You gave me something to believe in, but I don't believe it. Just like you won. I'm broken inside. Is this your idea of fun? When dealing with a poor and breaking heart, just run. Does anybody else feel this way? Does everybody else hurt this way? Just like you won, I'm broken inside. Is this your idea of fun? When dealing with a poor and breaking heart, just run. We were golden, but now we're broken. You're the artist of our destruction. We were golden, but now we're broken. You're the artist of our destruction. You've won, I'm broken, it's done. Is this your idea? Just run, you won, I'm broken, it's done. Is this your idea of fun? When dealing with a poor and breaking heart, just run. You won, I'm broken inside.
Finally. Fox Race. This is like
Oh, come on. Sit, sit, sit. Oh, that was a decent sit, I guess. Oh, come on.
It was almost kind of like another day at the practice track for them, right? Like they just got out front, ran their motos, battled each other, and go 1-2.
They couldn't have scripted it better. They're the title sponsor of this event because they're also celebrating their 50th year in racing. And then they introduced the 2023 bikes, including one with a retro theme to it. And then they put the retro look on the bikes this weekend to celebrate. And they go 1-2 in all 4 motos today. Couldn't have done it any better. So let's hear from Chase Sexton, Ken Roxon, and Christian Craig, who was also on the podium from the post-race press conference.
Obviously, this is where I want to be full time, so finally, better late than never. It took a little bit longer, but we're here and ready to have some fun with the big dogs and, yeah, challenge for some podiums and try to get closer.
Learn a little bit about yourself and the competition today?
Yeah, of course. I got to ride with some our battle with some legends. Battle with Dungey, both motos, Caroli, and then had my teammate Tomac behind me that was like 50th year for Honda and motocross. This year is cool. And we had the retro theme today, which was awesome to put those guys on the top step in both classes. And racing Kenny, I knew he was going to be tough that second moto. He was last year here. I had a really good first moto, and he went out and just destroyed everybody in the second moto. So knew I had to get a good start, and I knew he was the guy I had to beat in the second moto. So it was cool. Like I said, we've done a lot of laps together, and it was just fun. Like I said, we're going to race each other clean, not pull any cheap stuff out there. So just good, clean racing.
Okay, gonna enjoy Twisted Tea with Justin Bogle. Yeah, cheers. Represent the Twisted Tea Progressive HEP Suzuki team. What do you want to say about your day, bro?
There's not a lot to say about my day, let's be honest. I think I went 20-20. I'm unsure of the overall. Knowing me, it's probably like a 23. So I tried, and I literally got 20. So I've been better. I've been worse, but I've definitely been better. So I got a lot of work to do.
Let's do a little on-track reporting here. So every rider on the podium is like, dude, track was sketchy, dude, track was sketchy, track was tricky, or sketchy. What was it like?
It was tricky. It was sketchy. It was not fun. This place, honestly, is... My rookie year, this track was a lot different. It's kind of fun. It was deeper. It wasn't... Now it's... Man, it's full-blown, like, hard-back, edgy, high speed with those potholes and edges and stuff. It gets dicey, man. It's tough. It's not my favorite track on the circuit by any stretch of the imagination. I'm excited to get past these first two in California and start migrating east because I'm not a fan of these. But man, the track today was brutal and I struggled mightily. So when those guys laughed me there at the end of the motos, I said, have at it, boys. I'm just finishing this one. I don't know how you're going that fast, but kudos because that ain't me.
One of the most shocking things is that Ryan Dungey showed up today. He hasn't raced in series in 6 years. He was almost the same level that he used to be. That's nuts.
Is anyone surprised? Honestly, I think everyone was selling him so short. It's Dunge, dude. If anyone is going to still be that dedicated and focused after 5-6 years of retirement, it's Dunge. Like, come on. It's Captain America. He's on a Wheaties box. Like, everyone, calm down. Just give him a couple weeks and he's going to be on the box and battling for wins. I'm calling it here. And the 222 over there is also going to be gnarly. Like everyone thinking he's not going to be, these guys aren't going to be gnarly here, they're out of their minds. Dunge Lappy both motos, so yeah, he's still gnarly. I raced the last 6 years and he didn't, so.
Taking it on the chin, I like it. Hey, you ride with the Lawrence brothers, train with Lawrence brothers here and there? They're pretty good, dude.
Yeah, they're pretty good, yeah. I think they did pretty all right today, yeah? Yeah, I think they did good, yeah. They're fast. Yeah, it's pretty simple. They're fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, that's why we get the expert.
They make me question my future in this on the daily basis at home. So, let alone coming to the race and having that slap in the face. But yes, during the week it's tough as well. So
we appreciate the brutal honesty from Justin Bogle.
you can laugh or you can cry. I'm choosing to laugh right now in front of the cameras.
Tears later, maybe.
Years later, you know what? When the lights go off and I'm sitting in bed, I might have to shed a couple thug tears for my sport performance lately. But hey, we're trying, man.
Okay, when you're firing off your YouTube comments at the end of this video, think that he'll be in a dark place by the time you're doing that.
I'm sorry. You guys can tell me I don't deserve a ride and I should quit. I feel you. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
We got some guys that came down from Oklahoma to cheer for you. People still like you.
I mean, somehow, probably because I did a no-footer on that step-down thing, 5 laps in a row in the second moto. I landed in a wheelie off the triple, the big jump coming back down the hill. So yeah, I mean, I was like, look, I got to do something because I think I'm in 22nd. I'm going to ride all day and not score a point. But round 1, we got 2 points. It's something to work with, baby.
There we go. I like the positive thinking. Let's get to our 250 press conference. The Lawrence brothers go 1-2, and Joe Shimoda on the box with them. Let's see what they had to say. See ya.
No, not really, because I mean, it's a kind of, every now and then you get a little lucky, the blind score finds an acorn, so, and those bikes are pretty fast, so it also helps, but, no, I was pumped. I mean, going second on the both of the starts, I mean, that's like a whole shot for first on set Justin, and at the start, yeah, like you said, I was kind of a little bit playing around, just kind of seeing where I could get him, and then found the spot. I was able to be getting him in that same spot the last, like, I think 3 races we've had there. It's kind of like my go-to spot almost with passing Justin. But, and then, yeah, Romano was able to find stayed a few laps behind, but I think it was like maybe 4th or 5th lap was able to find a spot and capitalize on it. Then from there it was almost difficult because I had to go and set a pace where I could last the whole race, not make any mistakes, and it was hard because obviously no one else. Like, I got a bit of a gap, and then you ride by yourself, so I mean you kind of get a little bit bored and that stuff. And I made a couple of mistakes, but I was able to bring it home safe. So.
Okay, we're back here, and we have such a loose program that not only has Bogo walked off, but even our cameraman, Team Fried Tom, is over there just hanging out with fans. But he hit record, and apparently this is working. You just saw our 250 press conference. Autopilot, yeah, autofocus, autopilot, the whole 9. Look, man, this is what everybody was worried about. What if Jet Lawrence was like even better than he was last year? This could be dangerous because he looked really good.
Yeah, he did look really good. I mean, the one, I guess, kind of saving grace we have is he's really good at this track. So, if moving forward, there's definitely tracks that he's not always been this good at, but this one he's been very good at over the years. But yeah, I mean, you look at like Twitter and there's people already talking 24-0, and it could be a bit facetious and stuff, but he looked really good. He looked in control. He looked like he could pick up the pace when he wanted to, kind of run that and then settle back into the pace that he was comfortable with. And all day long, it just seemed like he didn't really have to put a foot wrong to end up on top.
Yeah, and even the early laps, he was in no rush to take the lead. You could tell he's like, I'm going to ride this speed, and when I need to go faster, I'll just do it. Joe Shimoda put up a heck of a fight. He was the closest of anyone to stop the Honda sweep. He almost got it done.
He did, and it's kind of like a little bit cool to see that like this little Geico trio ends up, battling for the win here, kind of 2 years after the Geico team folds up. So that part was cool. But yeah, Joe definitely looked really solid today. I feel like all day long just got a little bit better as each session went on. Like started with the first session, I think he was like 6th or 7th, and then the next session was a little bit better. And then didn't get a good start the first moto, but showed what he can do with a good start in the second moto. And I think that that's going to be a lot of what we'll see out of Shimoda this summer is, get a good start, run up front, battle with the Lawrence brothers. Hey, maybe he'll win a moto or 2 this summer. That'll be really cool to see as well, and obviously make the PC guys happy.
Yeah, now the hope was that Justin Cooper, who was obviously able to challenge Jet Lawrence right down to the wire last year, could do it again this year. When he whole shot the first moto and led, we're like, it's on. But look, he lost 5 months of riding, and it showed, man. He didn't have the endurance.
Yeah, and I think you could see Jet in the first moto know that almost, right? Like he just waited it out and waited to see how long Cooper could hold that pace, and then the second Cooper went back, Jet took off. But I was actually kind of a little bit impressed with the way that Cooper recovered, because the second moto didn't get a great start and then actually kind of just slowly rolled forward the whole time, whereas the first moto it was slowly rolling backwards the whole time. And the moto scores don't reflect a good day, but I think that that's kind of what he needs, right, is like something to build off of, right, and just say like, look, at least I was going for it, at least I have something to build off of, because like you're saying, it's going to be a slow roll for him to get back to where he was for sure.
Yeah, that's a lot of time off the bike. One other name we want to mention, Seth Hamaker, fastest in the first qualifier after crashing into Justin Cooper, second fastest in the second qualifier, so it was not a fluke. Ran up front for a while on both motos. Didn't hold on all the way to the end, but okay, I didn't know where this guy stood outdoors. Apparently he's fast.
Yeah, right. I think that he was, of all the PC guys, kind of the most under the radar coming in, right? Like, we don't really know how well he is outdoors. We know Supercross, he's kind of got it figured out, right? Like, he's a podium guy, but is that always going to translate to outdoors? No. So to see him, light up the leaderboards in both qualifying sessions, qualify P1 on the day, I think it shows that, the little glimmer that we see in Supercross is going to easily carry into outdoors. And a lot like Shimoda, I think that we're going to start seeing him take these steps towards, get on the podium, get a second in a race, get a moto win and stuff like that. And that's promising signs, like I said, for Pro Circuit, because they've, been through the ringer outdoors, especially recently. So it was cool to see them, running up front, green machines at the front of the field.
Yeah, and they took a hit again because Cameron McAdoo, apparently, he got racked in the first moto. Bogle, we hit on Caroli and Dungey with him. One other rider we have to talk about, it was very scary to see Eli Tomac losing pace in the first moto. It looked eerily like Supercross. It was looking like maybe the knee's not getting better, but he pulled it together in Moto 2. Thank goodness. We don't want to lose Ferrandis and Tomac.
No, absolutely not. And, I think that because he's only 90% as he put it coming in, I think that any little thing that was a bit off today was always going to kind of hold him back a little bit. He's talked about it in Supercross this year where when he hasn't felt it, he's not felt the need to push it anymore. And I think that that's what we saw in the first moto. The second moto, like you said, it wasn't a great start. It wasn't like he got out front and controlled or anything like that. But it was just more kind of vintage Eli Tomac. He just slowly built up, got better as the moto went on. And like you're saying, that's kind of what we need to see after not having Ferrandis here today. Tomac is obviously going to factor in this championship. So if he can build off of this and come into next week at podium, I think that before long he's on the top step.
Yeah, the first moto for Tomac, it was like, uh-oh, and the second moto was like, okay, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Okay, so this is awesome. We will see you at Hangtown next week. Come hang out with us at the Twisted Tea Truck after the race. It's always a good time. And thanks to them for backing the show. Thanks for Justin Bogle for the time. Team Fraud, good job with the video. We'll see you next week at Hangtown.
Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Have a very interesting show for you this Tuesday. We have a book here that takes place in the recent past, in the 60s, when the Beatles were all the rage, and we're going to talk about the Beatle Bandit today. It's a serial bank robber's deadly heist. I'm reading it right from the exact title. A cross-country manhunt and the insanity plea that shook the nation. This is a very interesting story. We're just going to jump into it right away, and I'll tell you, it's got twists and turns and a heck of a... It's even got a murder in here, too, which we'll talk about here And it is quite the story, I'll tell you that. Nate Henley is our guest. He's a Toronto-based freelance journalist and author. He has written several nonfiction books, primarily in the true crime genre. His books have examined wrongful murder convictions. The Boy and the Bicycle is one of them. Scams and Hoaxes. The Big Con is one of those. And Organized Crime, which we may have to get him back to talk about the Mafia, a guide to an American subculture. I'm a huge Mafia book fan at that. Nate's most recent book, The Beetle Bandits, is the one we're talking about today. It's about Matthew Carey Smith, who is an intelligent but troubled veteran of the Royal Canadian Navy who robbed Toronto area banks in the early 1960s to finance a one-man revolution. We're going to jump into it right away today. Let us welcome in to True Crime Tuesday, Nate Henley. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, Nate. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us, Nate. But before we jump into the story, let's get a little bit of your background, more so than what I just read there, Nate. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and first of all, how you got into basically journaling and chronicling other people's stories.
Okay, fair enough. I guess the first pertinent point is I'm actually was born in the United States. In Connecticut, my entire family are Americans. We're the only Canadian branch of the entire family.
Oh.
Skipping forward a few years, I went to university, Trent University in Peterborough. I always envisioned myself as a writer since I was a kid and handwrite these long adventure-type novels, scenarios, and such. I had a wonderful teacher in grade 8 who actually taught these books, whose taste in season. And I realized I was a novelist, so I went to journalism school, studied journalism, and then just jumped in from there. So since the 90s, I've been working as a journalist, and always harbored this desire to write a book. And I always envisioned it would be a novel, but the opportunity arose to write fiction. A company named Alpha Publishing put out an announcement that they were looking for punchy, popular history from Ontario and Toronto. At the time, a bank robber named Edmond Boyd had just died. He was in the greatest band in the 50s, helping a lot of banks. I pitched a book idea to the altitude. They liked it. A contract ensued, and then a book resulted from that. And I just fell into true crime. They wanted to write more books. I said, sure. And they would send me lists, and a lot of these lists contained a lot of crime topics. So I sort of became their go-to true crime guy, and along with other publishers over in Europe, Greenwood, Cleo invited me to write Lodge. And I wrote some books for them about mafia, and so that's sort of how I got into it. Enjoyed true crime, but I cannot honestly say I was a huge true crime buff or started writing true crime books. I read a few classics like In Cold Blood and Helter Skelter, but I was never, but I wasn't a fanatic about it. I read most of this.
So you were more mainly more of a history buff. If there was a subject that you wanted to explore, or one that the ultimate Nate Henley book, what book would you want to write? What would you want to delve into?
That's a good question. I have, as most writers do, I have visions for about 20 different projects going on, most of which I like to keep top secret. One project, though, that would involve both history and true crime is I would love to write an expanded book about Dutch Schultz. I had written a short book about Mr. Schultz, which is available from Gundry Press in ebook format, and I'd love to really dig in and write a really long book, hundreds of pages, because he was just this fascinating gangster, extremely eccentric. This is the 1930s. He made a fortune from bootlegging, extortion, and illegal lotteries. And he's just a fascinating guy, and made a fortune, but was brought down by his own peers who inspired against him. They didn't stand him, crazy, some crazy things. Leave it at that. That's sort of a dream project that I've had in mind for a while. Might not get around to quite a bit, but a really sort of expansive, something along the lines of there are some magnificent, huge books that I own in the last few years. I'd love to do something like that.
So let me ask you this, Nate. Do you feel like, some of the best or better crime books out there tend to take place in the not so recent past? I mean, we're looking at, 60, 70 years ago. Do you feel like, I hate to say this because it sounds bad, do you feel like the flair, the panache that criminals had in those time periods from the 20s to, like, say, the 1960s or 70s, that these criminals had a little bit more flair than criminals today? Have we lost something in today's criminals that they didn't have back then?
Good question. I think part of it is just a reflection of the time. There is this sort of, and I don't mean to glorify these guys by any means, but there is something very stylish about these mobsters in their clothes and their creepy suits and ties and jackets, Tommy guns. That's sort of more striking and visually appealing than dudes running around in tracksuits, dirty hockey jersey or something, which seems to be the case nowadays. And I think another huge thing was that a lot of the gangsters in that time, 20s and 30s, dealing with bootlegging, selling illegal alcohol. And from our modern perspective, our attitude is kind of like, we shouldn't have banned this in the first place. This is, it was insane to sort of try to have pollution and alcohol and cause all sorts of scene. So there's more, I think, it's easier to sympathize with somebody who is selling illegal hooch than someone selling illegal crack, although they're both toxicants. I think, crack still is illegal, amphetamine or whatever. So looking back, there is sort of a bit of sympathy that you guys just got it and take the ban. And there was a bit of a panache, I guess you would say. There's always, these guys are just as normal as anybody today. So I'm just careful not to overly glamorize these guys. They definitely did have more concern about their image and appearance. At this point, back to Mr. Schultz, one thing he was roundly criticized for his peers was that he was a slob, that he made some comment that he'd never pay more than $2 for a shirt. Even in 1930s currency, it was not a huge amount of money. That'd be about $20 by today's standards. And he had crumbs all over his jacket. And he always dressed looked like a bum. And apparently his peers were really appalled by this. Their attitude was making lots of money, gotta dress the part, man. And they took this as a sign of his eccentricity that he didn't this.
Which we'll bring this around here to the current book we're talking about here today, which is The Beetle Bandit, a serial bank robber's deadly heist, a cross-country manhunt, and the insanity plea that shook the nation. Matt Smith is the Army. Well, he's a veteran as well. He ends up getting into an altercation. We'll talk about that later, a little bit later too. Give us a little bit of a background on this bank robber, Matt Smith, because he's got a little bit of an eccentric way in which he goes about his business.
Absolutely. Full name Matthew Carey Smith, and to clarify, his father was named Matt Smith. So in the book, I refer to the father as Matt Smith, and Carey Smith.
Let's start with his origin first, and then we'll go about his MO.
Okay. Matthew Carey Smith, born 1940 in Houghton Prairies, and his father is a journalist, later becomes a businessman, and his mother, Helen Isabel Crichton, is a teacher. and he has an older sister, Leanne. Family moves to Ontario when he's quite young. His mother starts showing signs of mental instability quite early in the marriage. She is later diagnosed as having schizophrenia. And this is incredibly upsetting to little Matthew Gary Smith because he's, obviously you're terrified that something bad is happening to your mother, and he's terrified that this will happen to him. He's a very smart kid, but is not very well in school. Seems very obsessed with crime and lives in a bit of a dream world, fantasizer. Drops out of the private high school that his father enrolls him in, and joins the Royal Canadian Navy. Seems to be doing okay for a while, but then drops out of that and falls into this weird life in that he's living in Toronto. At one point, he's working for his father, so he's got jobs and he's capable of work, but at the same time, he's like stealing. He takes police in a car chase at one point, and he is taken to court. And as part of his sentence, he's told to go get a psychiatric evaluation, and they conclude that he has schizophrenia, like his father.
Okay.
But they don't think that he's a danger to society. So he's out and about. He also starts at this point, this is we're talking early 1960s, he starts robbing banks. And there's no real reason for this, other than as a child he kind of admired bank robbers. Starts robbing banks. His very first bank robbery, he accidentally fires a gun and badly wounds an accountant who has to later get a steel plate in his head. And he alternates between being sort of criminal and working straight jobs. Like at one point he goes out west and works for Inco, which is an international nickel. Has a reputation as a good worker. He gets a job at one point in Toronto at Dunlop Rubber, operating a machine, and again, good steady worker. And he goes out west, he sort of accumulates some friends that he brings back to Toronto, and he finds a girlfriend, Eileen Charity Amnott. She is her Métis, which means Indigenous father, and a French-Canadian father, Indigenous mother, backwards. And at the time, Canada is a much more racist society, openly racist, than it is today. So this raised some eyebrows. Dating a person with Indigenous background, and they're living together in Toronto. So that's like, didn't live with my marriage. So Matt Smith, he's got a house, he's living with all these people. And he continues to rob banks, and he's starting to develop this revolutionary consciousness that he wants to overthrow the government. And he rants and raves to his roommates, but he doesn't really have a clear idea of what he wants to overthrow and replace it with. He just seems to like violence for the sake of violence, and he has this macho man warrior attitude. He expresses admiration for communists and Nazis, but not for their ideology, but just for the fact that they went out and committed acts of violence. So it's a bit of a nihilistic approach, and this leads up to the notorious July 24, 1964 bank Bathurst Manor Plaza. If you want, you can explain, or we can segue into anything else.
Well, let's rewind just a little bit. I'm interested to know. Now he gets the diagnosis of schizophrenia. Obviously, he had a bit of an issue with his mother being schizophrenic.
Yes.
At this point, I'm curious as to whether there's let's get a little psychological here. If there's a bit of a self-loathing complex at this point, because it sounds like he's struggling between trying to fit in with society versus trying to struggle with his own self. It almost sounds like as he's fighting with an identity of robbing banks and wanting to fight against society, it sounds like he's also trying to assimilate with society. It's almost like he's got this internal war going on with himself. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would. I would add a couple elements to that.
Okay.
He definitely had this internal struggle that part of him wanted to be a warrior and lead Canada into this revolution. He envisioned himself leading this revolution. At the same time, he uses some of his bank robbery money to buy a bungalow and moves his friends in, and has TV and is like, hey, how you doing? And accumulates what we would consider sort of the trappings of a middle class life, car, home, all this sort of thing. And the element that I would add, though, is he had this ferocious sense of competition with his father. Matt Smith goes from being a journalist to being quite a successful businessman. And he has his son has this intense rivalry with him, that the son feels like he constantly has to out his father. At one point, his father buys a tape recorder, for dictating business, blah, blah, blah. His son shows up with a tape recorder that's way more valuable. And he has no reason for owning this, just wanted to one-up his dad.
Okay.
He will drive, he'll show up at his dad